Hey guys, and welcome back to Frontboards and Four Baggers, episode 16. I am Eddie from Cornhole Bag Reviews, and we got Corbin from Corbin's Cornhole Reviews. Somehow he is not working, so he's able to attend the podcast this week.
Incredible.
Too bad it's only me. You know, you're stuck with just me this time. You don't get any cool pros to talk to, but
just us.
Today we're going to discuss a very popular brand, someone close and local to you. We're going to talk about Killshots, but we'll talk about their probably two most popular bags. They have some new ones up and coming, but we got like kind of the OG 357 style bag, and then we got the P90, which has definitely been one of the top sellers in the last year or so. And then we'll talk about kind of, we were inspired by the Jimmy Humans, Tyler Cobb thing to talk about the Clean Vs Dirty Playstyle. And what we mean by that is, what's the pros and cons of being a player that just wants to shoot for the hole every single time and a player that likes to do the block, airmail, roll, those kind of shots. And especially at the pro level, and we'll talk about pro level versus like intermediate level and basic level, because, I think a lot of us even struggle to try to make it in every time, and then kind of how that differs between the different levels. So we'll start out with the P90. So you got a P90 on? I think you got a prototype, don't you?
I have prototype P90s. Yeah, this is a 1 of 5. So not a patch. That's just a design. But yeah, these were the very first P90s that he made and got out to some people to try.
Nice. I had a set of P90s. I actually just traded my set, but I didn't trade my set. I gave them to my little brother for Christmas because we were throwing them at Christmas, and he's not even a cornhole player, and he 4 bags with them. He's like 12 years old, and he's like, "Can I buy Can I buy these off you?" I'm like, "You don't have to buy them. You can have them."
Merry Christmas,
there you go. But I had the original P90s as well. I did not have the Gen 3s, but we could talk about the difference between that. But we'll talk about the materials real quick. So we got a 6.9 speed. It's a pro sniper material. In my opinion, it's a slightly fuller than a pro sniper, less full than my Enigmas, very comparable to like a Costello in terms of fullness, in my opinion, the way when it breaks in, but not like crazy taco floppy like a pro sniper. Still gets floppy, but not like, tissue
still
paper floppy.
But it's still got a really good feel.
Yeah. The Gen 3s and especially have kind of that nice disc fill. And then we're looking at 105 plus shipping on the website right now. They are on sale for $75 for the base colorways, but you can find them for like $60 to $90 on Facebook. Killshots go for a relatively low bar, some like really limited ones, but you can find some pretty good deals on Killshots if you're looking for them on Facebook. But I know this is local to you and you had the prototypes. These might be a little quick for you now, but what's your opinion on the P90?
Yeah, I mean, they're a little quick for me now, but in a sticky condition, I would absolutely play with them. You know how it is. A lot of times in winter, the boards are just fast.
Yeah.
It's just everywhere I play right now, boards are fast. So I'm not going to be using them, but if you are a clean player 4 in the hole, phenomenal bags. I mean, you can block if they get a little stickier, but both sides are just stupid hole friendly. We all know that, pro sniper Costello slow. It's definitely got the pro sniper Tango fast.
Viper fast.
So Viper fast. I mean, it's a stupid friendly fast side, but the slow side doesn't hang or punish you at all. I mean, it's a really, really good bag for a slide player. Absolutely. I think I said in my review actually that this is going to be their number 2 bag behind the 357.
Oh yeah. And
before it was even
out
and done, I said, and it could be, it could fight the 357 all day long. You have some 357 diehards, but I think the P90 is really scooping into like, those Viper guys that don't want to have to pay for Vipers anymore, or, pro sniper that's not a huge fan of Lucky.
And I also think as we'll talk about later with the playstyle, I think we're transitioning to a time in the game currently where fast bags are more popular than slower bags. More players like the fast bag, the hole friendly bag, and these hang up. Not at all. Like they very much just slide in the hole. I would say with them, same with Costellos and all the pro snipers, maybe not pro snipers actually that much. The slightly fuller versions of my Enigmas, I can still manipulate those decently well. I can throw cuts with those pretty well. Mm-hmm. Like they are super forgiving if you're not super flat. I know a lot of people throw Costellos vertically, they'll still slide in the hole, but I can manipulate if I try. I find them a really nice airmail bag. And the combination for me, the reason I think those two materials work so well is a lot of the time the Surefire Fast Costello Fast side, a lot of people, when they flip over to Fast side, it's a very noticeable difference in terms of feel and materials, very crunchy and gritty on that Fast side, that game changer material. Because this uses that Viper Pro Sniper, when you flip to that Fast side, it's still relatively soft, somewhat similar to the slow side. So I find it easier to kind of change between the two without too much difference in the hand feel. if that makes sense, which is why I think that combo works really well because they're both semi-soft, but they play vastly different in terms of speed. It's a great push side. You could push through almost anything with that material. That thing can get soaking wet and push through anything. I mean, it's just a really, really solid push side. And again, both sides, you can sneak into a tiny hole with that thing. I mean, like you sneak around bag, slide around and drop. So really solid. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. We're seeing a lot of companies come out with these materials. Both the materials are very common in the bag industry, but paired together, they just make a really solid bag. And I like the template and the thickness and the fill that Killshots uses.
It's almost got the perfect hand feel. And this is actually, and I could be wrong on this, but my speculation is that this is Gen 3 fill, and this is the first bag he used it in.
I agree, because my original P90s felt very similar to the Gen 3s.
This is Gen 3 fill. He's put them in the 357 now, the Canon, the Phantom, whatever. It all has it now. Yeah. But this was his first iteration of that fill, trying to figure out how he liked it. But man, they nailed it, honestly. That's because that's a slightly thicker bag, but it is nice and floppy. It has a wonderful hand feel. And I will say, this is one bag that I actually did not use a single artificial break-in on.
No, they broke in fairly quickly just by throwing.
I warm water soaked for an hour, and then I tumbled them, and then I just threw them for a couple days, and all of a sudden they started melting. I'm like, holy crap. And they're money now. I mean, they're amazing.
When people reach out to me about those materials in specific, no matter the bag, I say I really like a Dawn wash on them because both the fast side and the slow side have almost a little waxy residue to them.
They got the wax.
And that slow side in particular, Costello's, Pro Snipers, those, as you throw them more and more and they get dirty, that waxiness keeps wearing off a little bit more and a little bit more. And they just play better and better the longer you throw them. They just really start to, and they slow down just a little bit when they get a little more grit on them. And I find they play like a step up from the Surefire, a nice transition, or from the 357, a nice transition from the 357 that can still block and push, but super hole friendly almost all the time.
Absolutely.
So P90, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if it takes over 357. I bet you if we looked at their sales charts since they released them, I wouldn't be surprised if it's outselling the 357. I think it's just, it fits right now in the cornhole world we live in the play style of the mass public, I would say a little bit more than the 357. And if you've never, we'll talk about this a second on the 357, but if you try a brand new 357, you might get turned off from it. But if you try a crazy broken one, you'll be really turned on about. So I guess we'll transition into the 357. We call it like a 5/8 speed. The slow side, it's not a Surefire material, but it's a very dense, softer, kind of like that polyester material. They call it the player's material. Fast side is that Surefire Game Changer Costello fast side. So very similar speed wise to a Surefire, but not quite the same in terms of hand feel, just definitely a little bit thicker. Gen 3, we're looking at the disc fill. I know the Gen 2 is a little bit more of a beady fill. Yeah. Gen 1s we're almost even more beady. My buddy has Gen 1s. They're almost a circle, like a perfect bead.
Yeah, they're pretty beady, but they're a little thicker.
Yeah, correct. But so different iterations to just know when you're out there buying, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, you are getting a different hand feel. So if you're a really big disc fill guy, got to go with the Gen 3. If you're like a game changer fill guy, BG fill guy, Gen 1, Gen 2 are very similar in that facet. All very similar in thickness and density and everything, but it's just purely that hand feel on the beads. Same materials and everything. But again, that 105 plus shipping, but they're on sale as well right now for $75, $60 to $90. Kind of Killshots kind of go in that range for most of their lines on Facebook right now, and they're very readily available. If you post looking for 357s, I bet you get 100 comments in like an hour. So my opinion on 357. So I've thrown with new 357s, like in terms of I broke some in. I broke in the Sure Shot Diablos, which uses the same material as the 357 slow. It is a rough material. It is a very, very dense material. I think you got to softener it like 2-3 times. I did conditioner on it, and you got to throw it a ton. It's one of those materials that it's almost like carpet. It's not quite to the point of carpet where you lose playability early on, but in terms of getting it to the best potential it has, it almost is the time frame of carpet and the dedication that you need for carpet. So I would say once you get them broken in though, they're really good. I've thrown my buddies Gen 1 357s that I'm pretty sure they can't get more broken in. They're almost broken, I think. Right. But even though it's really beady, man, are they hole friendly. And that material almost thins out. It's almost like it dissolve, part of the rubs off over time. It really thins out. But it plays similarly to a Surefire, just with a little bit of a denser hand feel, a little bit less soft. I would say it sticks up a little bit less fast than a Surefire. It almost like is a little bit longer lasting. That material doesn't quite get affected by humidity in the same way. But either way, again, I mean, Killshots, I think, is one of those brands that really has like a cult following in terms of there are people that really enjoy the bags. And I think this is just, the OG. Anybody who's a Killshots fan has a set of 357s or 20 and really likes them and has their own way of breaking them in. But I know you've thrown almost every gen of 357s, and a lot of people in your area are Killshot fans. Yeah. So like, what's from throwing them? What do you like about them?
Well, I actually took the very first tournament that I played, literally very first tournament before I even knew how big Cornhole was. I was throwing Gen 1 357s and I took second place. So they got a little special place in my heart just because of that. They're a good bag. My problem with them is that slow side. Yeah. I know, but hang on. That slow side definitely hangs up as far as a humid situation, which also makes it kind of fun because you can flop and roll with it.
Sure.
When it does that, you can do nasty cuts. The fast side, hang on, but the fast side never is affected really. No. But like you're saying, the break-in is the hardest part with this bag. I think it's actually harder to break in than carpet is. Sure. It's harder to get where you want it to be because this is a brand new set. Hang on, please. This is a brand new set and it's just
stiff as a board. Stiff. Yeah.
It is stiff. And they're brand new. I got them in a mystery box and I wanted to keep them brand new. They're Jersey guy. I got my 357s, I'm cool, but they're stiff and it's tough to get it that way. You can condition them, you can soften them, you can do whatever. And they kind of go,
Yeah. I think after like 2 rounds of softener, I could still do that test where you lay it on the hole and it doesn't fall in.
Right.
Like it's just pretty really close. Yeah.
But that's not a knock on the bag itself. Because once you get that material broken in, it is so, can you please stop? Once you get that material broken in, it is so incredibly friendly. Like it's stupid floppy. And then it gets in the hole and it starts to drip. I mean, you can drag them, you can push them. It's a really good bag. It's been as popular as it is for a reason.
Sure.
So I like them. I will always like them. I prefer carpet in the speed range, but they're great bags.
No, and I think it's also just the stigma around the bag. I think it's one of the most quote unquote famous bags in the space in terms of it's definitely probably their biggest bags in terms of just overall forever of the company existing.
It's absolutely
the most popular bag that they've probably ever come out with. Just if it's maybe the P90's outselling it right now, but like the 357 just over the course of time is one of those bags, almost like the Pro Advantage, like the Slide Right, maybe the Game Changer that came out. The 357 is just kind of in that conversation for like before this huge bag boom that we've been seeing in the last 8 months to a year with all these companies coming out with bags. 357 was kind of at the beginning of that and a very popular bag in the common space for the beginning of the bag. So it looks like Corbin is taking a little kid hiatus here. He's got the Fruit Loops out and
I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to get her a snack. I'm sorry.
But we'll transition a little bit into here to the Clean Vs Dirty Playstyle. So a little background on why we're talking about this today. So last week when I interviewed Jimmy Humans and Tyler Cobb, Jimmy Humans brought up a really interesting point about doubles teams and something that I brought up to Corbin afterwards. And I thought was probably one of the coolest things. I was like very impressed with the cerebral understanding of the team and something I never really thought of when it came to a dirty playstyle player in terms of they wanted to have one player that was the clean playstyle person, just trying to 4-bag every single time, and one player playing the dirty playstyle, which is playing for the blocks, the rolls, the airmails, the cuts, the big rounds, the aggressive playstyle, the really dirtying up the board, making it difficult to play. And most carpet teams try to go both players doing that. Both players going for the blocks, the rolls, the airmails, the cuts. But as we'll get into with the pros and cons of each scenario, it looks like Peanut's hand is joining the podcast. But as we
we're getting there, man. I swear. Yeah. We're getting there.
As we get into like both of the scenarios of or the pros and cons of each, if both players are playing crazy aggressive, you give a really high chance of maybe if one of you are off, just giving up constantly big rounds, where if he was saying if you have one player throwing the constant clean play style, kind of washing out your opponent, maybe whoever's thrown against the best player that day or the player that they think is just going to push through constantly or airmail over him constantly, they'll just 4-bag wash constantly and let the other player take the aggressive line, try to score the big rounds and get the points that way. He calls one player needs to be the bagger, one player needs to be the scorer, which I think is a really interesting play style. So then it brought up the idea, let's just talk about about the differences between clean and dirty playstyles in every level of competition, kind of the pros and cons of each, and what you could look at using each of those playstyles. So we'll start out with the clean playstyle. When we're talking about a clean playstyle, we're talking about you're trying to 4-bag every single time that you're on the board. You're trying to slide every single bag in. You're not trying to throw blocks. You're not trying to throw, cuts. You're just trying to slide, push through, maybe a slight accidental block if it leads a little short, airmail if they throw a block on you, but you're not going for these crazy shots. The pros I would look at from that, we're looking at you would probably have a lot higher of a PPR. You're probably going to have more consistent scoring in terms of, you'll be able to, get your points here and there. You need less shots to be doing this play style in terms of you only need a slide, a push, and airmail. You're not going to need a cut. You're not going to need a roll. You're not going to need a short block. You're not going to need a level 1 block. You're not going to need all these other shots. It's just a very easy, consistent play style to do. You can use really hole-friendly bags. You can use the fastest bags that exist. That's why you see people throwing game changers, vipers. You're just trying to get it near the hole and have it fall in. And in me and Corbin's opinion, it's an easier play style to do, and that's why you see most people in lower echelons of competition doing this play style. So, in your opinion, so I would say when you're starting off, almost everyone's just going to try to throw in 4 bags every single time.
Yeah. And you're definitely going to be trying to slide because you're trying to get that consistency in your game,
Yeah.
And everyone watching, I assume, knows that this is not my play style. This is not my preferred. Sure. I like to muddy it up, which, we'll get into, but I think this is a great place to start. And I think it's a very important thing to learn.
Sure.
We didn't really talk about it, but I think the dirty play style is a little more difficult at times.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to be clean as well. If your person's going 4-bagger against you, you're throwing a block, they're getting around it. Well, if you get around it, they get around it again. You got to get yours in at some point to get to their 12, unless you just want to give up 2-3 points every single round. So the slide play style is not exactly for me, but it is incredibly effective. I just think the most important part of that is just having a killer airmail.
Yeah, and in terms of the cons
you have to bang.
Yeah, and and everyone would be like, oh, well, this is the easy play style. You just slide it in every time. So, I think it's important also to look at the cons of a slide play style. And in the cons, in my opinion, you put less pressure on your opponent, where I would say the mass majority of people, and again, guys, we're talking about like upper echelons of plays. We're talking like pro level, maybe advanced players, right? Like, granted, in your lower skill level areas, if you make 4 in the hole, you're probably going to score, because just not a lot of people are doing that. But when you're looking at pros, when we talk to them, they said they can make 100. All of them can make 100 in a row. They're pros. They can do that, right? So in my opinion, it puts a little bit of less pressure on your opponent every round, where that's what they're easy to do. They don't have to airmail. They don't have to cut. They don't have to roll. They don't have to push. They're just sliding up the board. So it's easier for them to just match you, right? And me and Corbin talked about this. You have a little bit of a lower DPR chance in terms of the rounds that you are scoring. You're probably scoring 1, 2, 3, maybe if they miss one off the board, right? You're not getting 6, 7 points, 5 points, because you're not forcing them to miss shots off the board. Like, you're not forcing them to miss airmails. You're just fighting for them to miss the hole. The games can go crazy long as well. Like in terms of if you're just matching each other every time. So over the course of a whole tournament, if you're playing 20 games, it can get fatiguing to constantly be making every single bag. You get mental fatigue. And like you were saying, you must have a good airmail, because if you run into a person that's really good at blocks, you don't have these other options for shots. You're throwing crazy fast bags. So you have a push through and an airmail. So you have to be on with that airmail. And actually, kind of interestingly enough, you're actually prone to giving up big rounds against these blocking players, which is what we'll get into, because if your airmail's off, which is why we saw Cheyenne Renner beating Matt Guy in the open 2 opens ago. She started throwing a block. He missed an airmail. She got 3 points. And that happened multiple times in a row. If you're slightly off on that airmail, you can give up big points. So I think the slide play style is an awesome place to start. In my opinion, I'm a hybrid person where I kind of change in terms of if I'm playing against someone that throws vipers or game changers, I'll just throw blocks the whole time.
You got to block them.
Because it's not even worth trying to fight, because I know that's their only goal. If I'm playing against someone that I think I can just outrace, then I'll just shoot. I'll just race, because it's like, okay, again, I'm not playing against pros. So if I don't think someone can shoot a 10 every single round, then I'll get at least a 10 every single round, just shoot for the hole. And yes, I do think it's easier. I've said this multiple times on the podcast. I think a purposeful block is the hardest shot in Cornhole. I think a block that isn't you just slid and it happened to stop short, but it's I'm going to throw a block and you throw a short block.
I'm doing this on purpose.
Yeah, that is because if you miss, you're giving bumpers, which is what we'll get into in the dirty playstyle. But so I definitely think there's just less room for error with a fast bag playstyle. I mean, you're throwing bags that you need a tenth of the bag in the hole and it goes in. So it's just very prone to forgiveness. You don't even have to be, and that's why like if you're not flat, I think you have to play this playstyle. I don't think you can play a dirty playstyle if you're not flat. Because
totally agree.
You're not going to be able to push and block consistently. It's going to be kicking all over the place, which is what we'll get into as well. But you can throw fast bags. You don't have to be flat. It's probably easier to get good like this. It's less demand on consistency in terms of, being consistent. So overall easier, but has its definite pros, and the best players in the world do it, to be honest. So
yeah, they do.
Makes sense. But talk a little bit about Corbin's playstyle, or a lot of Jimmy Human's playstyle, Tyler Cobb's playstyle, Eric Davis is big on this, right? Is messy game, which the pros of it, higher chance for scoring big rounds. That's the biggest pro, right? You throw a block, they block behind, you roll over, they miss an airmail, you roll over, they miss an airmail, you're up 6. Right?
Yeah.
They try to push through, they kick off the side, you push through, you replace, you're instantly up 2 with a blocker still in the way. I mean, it's just like you're forcing your opponent to always shoot hard shots. Like they never just get to, because I mean, cornhole is muscle memory. I mean, so much, the reason that a lot of people are good when they drink is because you could just kind of drink and chill out and throw bags, right? If you're like, I got to step out and throw a left to right cut. I got to throw a right to left cut. I got to push through. I have to airmail. I have to block behind and not miss. All those shots are mental fatigue, more difficult, more prone to error. And if they're used to sliding every time and they're like, okay, I'm going to block behind, this is very common. Not many good fast players are good at blocking behind because you have to be more accurate. You have to hit in a certain spot, and they're used to just sliding in every time anywhere near the hole. You also have a lot more shot options. You can go for the flop. You can go for the roll. You can airmail. You can push. You can block. You can cut. I mean, you have every shot available to you because of the bags that you're playing. Usually a carpet play style, but could be just a slow bag play style. Very, very usually.
Could be Surefire 357, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhere in that 4 or 5 range.
100%. And I would say another pro is your shots are less prone to going off the board. In terms of you could throw aggressive. Yeah. A block is usually before the hole. It's kind of got to get pushed closer to the hole. If you go for a roll, usually ends up on the board somewhere. You go for a push, usually ends up on the board somewhere. You're not throwing these crazy fast bags that are going off the back. Usually you have a lot, if you're accurate, you have a lot less dead bags. Like bags are usually always in play depending on what you and your opponent are doing. You have to airmail less because you have a lot more shot options. It's just you have a lot more, ability to do things in a round. And like the thing that you said and you really like is you get to play aggressive with a slower bag. You get to throw it harder. You don't have to baby anything. You can follow through with the hole. So why did you switch to this play style? And since you've switched, what are the reasons that you think you like it more?
Yeah, I mean, I was never like a 4 in the hole, slide them all in kind of guy. I mean, I was never a fast bag guy. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to remember the fastest bag that I consistently played was like a Cat 2.
Costello's.
That's the fastest bag I consistently played. And I really remember this regional where like we were saying, the fatigue and long games and all that, right? This guy and I were battling back and forth 1 or 2 points a round or washes. We'd go 10 rounds of washes in a row. Just kept going. And I just got tired. I shot a stupid airmail at the end because I was done with the game. I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm like, I'm going to try to drag and win. And if I miss, I'm going to lose. And I'm okay with that. I was just like, fine, whatever. To me, the slower play style, the dirty play style, it's just more fun. Yeah. I'm not out here trying to be a pro. I'm not trying to make tons of money doing this. I mean, if I place well at a tournament, I'm thrilled. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I want to do well, but in the same token, I'm not trying to absolutely advance to the very top level as soon as I can. So I'm out here trying to have fun. And I think the biggest part that I like about it is with the muddy play, you can beat a player that's better than you are.
100%.
That's what it is. I mean, if you're looking at strict PPRs, whatever, right? Say I'm a 6.5 and someone else is a 10, I can win that game.
Oh yeah.
That's lay a couple of purposeful blocks. They miss a couple and then you just capitalize when you can. I really like the flop and roll style I call it a safe airmail. Just most of the time, if the hole's open or I just need to do something, even if I miss it, it's typically staying on the board.
Sure.
It might even become an even better blocker, which I really like for that. If I try to flop one over and it doesn't, well, their bag is totally screwed now.
Sure.
Unless they bar soap me, which I've never had happen in person, but I mean, I've seen it. It's ridiculous, but it, like you're saying, it really reduces my airmail chances. I'm really only airmailing to drag now.
Yeah.
So if the hole's open at all, I'm going to try to hit the pile and roll over it and let it tumble in. But I just like it. It's more interesting to me. It's kind of fun laying a,
Daddy.
I know, but oh, can I be quiet? That's hilarious.
Just trying to watch a show, Corbin. How dare you?
Just trying to watch your tablet with noise canceling headphones, and I have to be quiet. No, it's just fun. I think it's fun laying a block and then finding a way to get around it. If you can clean them all up, it's just no better feeling than making a dirty board, cleaning them up, and scoring 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. Also, the 4 in the hole play style is just not really for me because I throw a lower bag.
Sure.
And I'm not willing to change my mechanics for a bag. You know, I change the bag for my mechanics. So that's just what I like. I like the versatility of it all. Am I better because of it?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, I talk about a lot in my vlog too. Like there's certain games where I'll be like, hey, we're playing against one of the best teams in the state. I'm going to try to throw blocks the whole game. And the reason for that is, and I was telling Jimmy Humans and Tyler Cobb this after the podcast, that like, if you travel to Minnesota and you got a killer block roll, you can beat literally anybody, just because it's like, there's so many good teams around here that you throw a level 1 V block and they're like,
whoa,
they're like, how do I play cornhole? Like that was rude.
What is that?
That's just in the way. And then, and they maybe they don't block behind. And I would say the biggest perk with, me being a fast bag and able to block play style is I can really push well in terms of like, I can accurately push because I'm used to throwing fast bags in a specific spot. So I'm fine switching to fast side and throwing hard. I don't roll per se, flop much. I will if me and you want to throw carpet, I'll throw rolls like I can.
Sure.
But I would rather
roll battle and have fun. Yeah.
I would rather airmail. My airmail has gotten a lot better. I like airmailing, but like, so my dirty play style is a hybrid in terms of I like block push, or I'll just block behind airmail. That's fine. I do
too. Honestly, it's in the same token. Like if I'm playing, say I lay a level 1 block, right? They miss off to the side. I'm not necessarily trying to get around that bag. I might slide right through. I'm content with my 2 points right there.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm okay and, maybe lay another one next shot and see what they do.
And I would say I tend to lead when I play dirty. I lead on the aggressive side and I tell my partner this too, where I will take me and my partner airmail. Like if we're just miss every airmail, then whatever it happens, but I will take us airmailing over our opponents in every game. So I tell them if you throw a block and they block behind, shoot the second bag. Because that's what I do. I'm like, just shoot the second bag. If you miss, you can think about laying up the third bag. But I think and I talked about to a bunch of teams about this weekend. And I guess this is a little bit of Cornhole strategy. In my opinion, if I throw a block and they perfectly block behind and I don't have a push chance, I'm always shooting because 1, I have hole control, so they can't push through me. 2, if I make that airmail, instant pressure. It's so much more difficult because if they short airmail accidentally, they knock me in. If they miss the airmail, I can either lay up or airmail again, already up 3, and now they have pressure to always hit that airmail. It's just the pressure that you put on your opponent with that second bag airmail, in my opinion, it gets you so many big rounds because they either lay up because they're not willing to do it, or you're just getting 3 to 6 points in a round. I mean, it's so. I think that the block play style has a ton. I'm not a big roll guy, but I think the messy play style is just, again, way more fun too. I love shooting. Way more fun. I have so many clips from you think my vlog would be that cool if I was like, all right, 7 rounds later after 6, 12 washes,
it's 3 to 2.
12 to 10 now. It's like, no, I mean, I have rounds. It's like one round, my favorite round of the weekend, even though we didn't even make the podium. Oh, spoiler, but we didn't make the podium. It was a really tough tournament. Hey, screw up.
It's not a spoiler.
Dude, I saw a dude's jersey and I wanted it because his name instead of his last name, he put first out of the money. And I was like, that's literally me. I need that shirt.
That's amazing.
I know. I was thinking about making a patch that was like 4th place champion or something, like something with that. 4th place. And I saw your poster. I want to make a patch now that's like 26.9 feet.
The 26 and a half. Yeah, that's me.
But like, it's just, I had my favorite round of the weekend was he slid in, I blocked, he blocked behind, I airmailed, he airmailed, I airmailed I airmailed again. He actually went for the airmail, landed short, knocked me in. I airmailed a third time, like for the 4-bagger. And I was just like, come on. Like, it's just so satisfying. It's so much more fun. Like, big. I slide in for a 4-bagger. I'm like, oh, good. I didn't mess up. Like, you airmailed cool, 3 times in a row. You're like hyped. You're like, that was sick. I want to do that again. So it's just, it's like more fun.
A final pro on that we didn't really mention, that I just kind of thought of. The 4-bagger, sliding them all in the clean play style, that can be physically tiring, right?
Sure.
I think playing against a dirty player is mentally tiring.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because I've had it so many times where, I'd prefer to slide my first one in and then make it messy, because then I got some points, to play with. But, slide the first one in, second one, level 1 V block, just sitting there. And I literally had my opponent be like, you do this every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's
the
on
point.
Purpose. Like 100%. And then they just start getting frustrated and start missing left, right, short, whatever. It's mentally tiring. We talked to Cheyenne and she said she just pushes through blocks now. She doesn't care anymore. Yeah. She's like, whatever, I'm just going to roll through it. Well, not everyone's like that. Not everyone likes
or able to
push
hit
through a block.
Or able in the center of the block.
That's the big problem. Hit accurately with enough speed to carry it in and fall and bring them both. So I think it's a mentally tiring game playing against that dirty player, because you just don't know what they're going to come up with.
Yeah, and one big thing that we didn't mention either that I think is really important from a strategy perspective, if you want to play the block play style, the dirty play style, if you're playing against someone's fast and you're like, I need to block them to prevent, if you have a situation that you can get 1 point or be aggressive to get more, take 1 point. And the reason I say that is because if you don't have first bag, and the reason I say that is because in the dirty play style, first bag matters more than almost anything else. Because if they slide one in to start and you throw a block, they can confidently just shoot an airmail or block behind, knowing that they're up 3. And now they block behind you and they're like, well, I'm up 3. So now you got to hit the hard shot already to start the round, right? So like you're playing their game almost by blocking.
Yep.
After they make a bag. So first bag is really, really important. But we'll go into a couple of the cons that we didn't necessarily talk about, because we talk about how great this block play style is, but there definitely is things that are difficult.
There's huge cons.
In terms of if you're slightly off, especially when I was saying the hardest shot in Cornhole is a purposeful block, in my opinion, if you're slightly off, you miss to the right or the left, you gave a bumper. Your opponent now bumps you out of the way, and for the rest of that round, their hole is 8 inches big. Right, they can miss left by like 3 inches. They're still going in, especially with those fast bags. So if you're not on, if your bag's not flat, if you're getting tired or lazy and it's starting to kick on you, you're going to get punished. You can't play super fast bags. So your bag will hang up a little bit more. If you're not in the middle of the hole, it's going to hang up. If the boards start to stick up, your fast side probably isn't crazy fast. Like it's just, you're less hole friendly. So accuracy is your key. You're really going for that, like trying to sneak around bags with a roll or an airmail or hitting really more difficult shots. I think it's harder. And you said this earlier. Personally, it's a lot harder. I think it's just harder to be consistent for a whole day.
It is.
Throwing blocks all the time. And you have to have good secondary shots. Your push has to be good. You either have to have a decent roll or a good airmail, right? I mean, like you have to have those shots. Otherwise you muddy up the whole round.
Great cut shot. I mean, you gotta have something to get around that bag that you left there.
Yeah. And you guys know I'm a big cut shot guy. Like I would rather block in their lane and cut around my bag 3 times or airmail, but I choose airmail as a roll bag, right? It's great if you have both, but I think you need one of those to be really confident in, because if you throw a block and they immediately perfectly block behind you, well, your only option is roll airmail. Like the hole's gone, or like some.
You can block behind again and see what they do. Well, it's up to how aggressive you want to be.
Yeah, but let's say they airmail and hit it. Well, now you have to hit one, right? Like if you're not confident in airmail,
you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, if you're not confident in airmail, you shouldn't be blocking because you have to be able to shoot, over a block. I mean, that's the whole point, right? So,
absolutely.
So you definitely have to have those shots, and we find it a little bit harder. But if you can master the dirty play style, I think it's really, really good. And
it's just more fun.
It is way more fun at the top tier pro level.
It's just more fun
at the top tier pro level. The fast bag play style is winning out right now. Matt Guy, Cheyenne Renner, like Baldwin, Trey Birchfield, like they're all throwing fast bags, right? And they were throwing pro snipers this week. I mean, fast bags, right? But Jimmy Humans has made 2 straight top 4s. Shout out Jimmy Humans, was just on the podcast. He made 2 straight top 4s in ACL throwing Neptunes, carpet bags, right? Yeah. And he doesn't even throw a roll shot. Yeah. He just likes to push an airmail, right? And he's just really consistent. But like you commented on one of his photos, he throws a pancake. I mean, his
Oh my
bag
gosh.
is like
Freaking
literally
pizza box,
this
dude.
all
Just
the time.
boom.
Like
Comes out of his hand and you're like,
you could slow-mo it and it just moves like this. Like it just doesn't go anywhere. So like
it's incredible.
So that, I mean, but that's why he's really able to utilize a whole day ACL event, 30 plus games of throwing carpet because he could throw it so flat. But that kind of leads us a little bit. I mentioned this for a little while you were getting cereal. But team chemistry and doubles. I think it's a really cool idea, and I wanted to get your take on this because you were getting cereal about about like when
what was I doing, Eddie?
I think it was Fruit Loops.
I was getting cereal.
Yeah, that. Because when I mentioned to you, like, hey, my favorite part of the podcast was when Jimmy Yunes was talking about that you need a bagger and a scorer, and they rotate between the game depending on who's off. My favorite comment, my favorite line of the whole podcast that I wish I could just quote was him saying, yeah, whichever one of us is off on the day, they'll just start four-bagging every time, and the other person will start blocking. And I'm like, I love how if you're off, you just go to four-bagging. You just
slide them all in.
Yeah, you just go to slide all in, and if I'm off, I get a 4.
Right.
Yeah, like it's just like the levels of off are very different, Jimmy. So I think you need different words here. But so when I brought that up to you, what was kind of intriguing to you? What made you want to talk about it? Like what clicked in your mind that was like, wow, that's a really cool idea?
Well, it made perfect sense to me because I was like, yeah, obviously the fast players, you got 2 fast players, you're going to be throwing 4-baggers, whatever. Like it's cool. There's no difference in play style. It's fine. But if you're playing, because I've done this, it's actually happened to me. That's kind of why it clicked. Because I played a tournament with a guy that I don't normally play with, but we both like carpet. We both like throwing together. My normal partner wasn't available. He was just going to go, whatever. We played. We were both trying to be messy and do flops and do all this other stuff. We didn't do that well.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we showed up and they were like, who's your partner? And I told them, they were like, oh boy. Like people were like, you guys should probably take it. Right. I mean, it was one of those.
Oh, sure.
And we did not do great. I mean, we won a couple, I think we went 2-2 or 3-2 on the day, but it just didn't work out. I was thinking about my normal partner now, and I told him, I said, John, listen, like, I'm not being mean about this, whatever. I was like, but you're the clean player. I'm the dirty player. He's like, what's that supposed to mean? I'm like, I'm more confident in you sliding 4 in than me. I'm like, that's what that means, And I'm like, and it makes perfect sense on the podcast. Eddie talked to humans and Cobb about it. And I said, it's kind of brilliant. I said, you can get around your own block, sure, but I'm the one that likes to lay the block, make it tricky, all that. Like he's perfectly content sliding all 4 in, and I am too, but I'd like to score points when I do it.
Yeah, or like,
I don't want to score. I don't want 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Like that's just a boring game to me.
And I think it's also really important about knowing who you're playing against, right? If you feel like your opponent in the first couple of rounds, if they have one guy that is maybe missing the board off the right or is giving you a bumper, slide all 4 in.
Your slider
you're just going to score.
Absolutely.
I mean, like they're just missing, right? If you have a guy that's like throwing game changers and he's just getting everything near the hole and not missing a lot, you be the block guy. Because it's like worst case scenario, you at least force him to shoot airmails, and then you maybe you only give up 2 points, but you're not forcing yourself to have to slide in a carpet bag 4 times in a row every single time, right? You're forcing them to have harder shots.
It's possible, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, I can be that guy if I have to be. If if the guy's totally off. Okay. If the guy's totally off, I'm not going to be trying to lay blocks and be like, oh, I'm going to get you off more. Like, no, if you threw 2 bags off the board, I don't need to block you.
Sure.
I can just throw my bags, so it can flip back and forth. I do kind of like that. It's not like a designated clean and a designated dirty, but you can't have 2 dirty players. I just don't think it's going to work. But I loved the idea because I've never thought about that consciously. Like somebody has to dirty up and somebody has to just keep sliding in and apply the pressure.
And it's okay to rotate. Like depending on
and it's fine to rotate
for what, if your airmail's on frickin' fire, then you be the blocker.
Oh,
because your
airmail's
on,
right? Let them shoot, and I love the idea. I just thought it was so cool. I don't know why it never clicked in my brain before that, yes, child.
But I think he said like, it sounds super easy on paper, but like until you actually start doing it, you start to realize that like the teams that throw carpet, a lot of the time they both go for rolls all the time. And that's why you maybe don't see as much success with carpet teams because it's just, they'll be off more than someone who just slides in every single time will be off. So you can't just constantly compete with that.
Which, I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that because in singles, you're seeing carpet do okay.
Yeah. But
in
doubles
you're
you see
not
almost
really
anybody.
seeing it up there too high,
Well, there's also not a lot of teams left that throw carpet. actual
That's
carpet,
true.
right? Even like
there's not true carpet
BG
teams
are throwing Wizards, which I mean they're carpet, but they're easier to throw for non-carpet throwers.
They're quick.
Yeah, and so I mean like Humans and Cop are one of the only teams left, and maybe Guy and Davis wants to throw a slow bag, but Guy doesn't really like slow bag as much. But
yeah, are they still throwing assaults?
I think so because Eric can manipulate him. And
Guy
throws pretty hard.
Whatever.
Yeah,
he does.
But like Cobb and Humans are kind of one of the only teams we've been seeing placings from like pure carpet players, right? And
yeah, I mean, who's Windsor's partner? I don't even know.
Exactly.
I should know. I should know, but I mean, they're going to be pure carpet too. I mean, the Windsors, he plays, his.
Well,
Windsors,
no, he threw Typhoons for a couple tournaments.
Did he?
Yeah, and but he does like his when he's singles, he plays platinums only. But I think in doubles they were throwing Typhoons. But either way, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. And even if you guys are fast bag players, I think having or even surefire players, you guys know I throw surefires. Having a surefire block playstyle is really good because they're still hole friendly. They don't kick too much.
They're hard to get through,
and they don't kick too much. They're pretty. They airmail drag pretty easily, in my opinion. So like, I just think having a block is really good. And I've beaten a lot of teams that I shouldn't beat because you start blocking them.
Yeah, block them, make it tough for them to get to the hole. That's always been my thing. It's put the pressure on them, make them make a shot. If they do, awesome, good for them. Exactly. They made the shot.
Yeah.
But if they missed it, that's why I put it there.
And there was a sponsored team that I shot against this weekend that I hit my partner hit a 2-bag airmail and I hit like a 3-bag airmail or something. And both of them instantly, they weren't like, dang, or crazy shot. They're like, you shot the right shot. He just hit it. Like, because they realize there's not much you can do. Like you had to block behind, you did, they hit the shot. There's not a lot you can do.
Yep.
I mean, that's just
if they're going to bang, they're going to bang. But I mean, if you're playing
force
that
them to do it though
situation, you force them into a bad spot, which might not be a bad spot depending on who you're playing against.
Yeah.
I might not try to block against Matt Guy, but I mean, I probably will.
It's probably the only way you could win.
Literally my only chance.
Literally the only chance you have. Yeah.
Maybe he misses one and I get one.
I think it's crazy that dude shoots like 80% airmails on a day. Like, it's just crazy. And
ridiculous.
His airmails don't even hit the hole. Like, they just like, they're like dead center airmail. It's just nuts.
He almost has trouble dragging bags, if you notice that.
Yeah, because he hits it so center.
He'll have bags sitting there. He hits everything so clean that he has trouble dragging them.
Or he hits the bag so hard it like pins it in the hole. Like he doesn't just catch this part of the bag. Yeah, it's nutty, man. It's nutty. I just love how when he like hits a bag and it doesn't drag, he just stares at the bag. Like, what are you doing? Why aren't you in?
Hands go up and he just looks down.
Just that level of consistency just blows my mind. Poor Matt Guy on the curse though, the ACL curse, 3 straight seconds.
He's getting cursed a little bit. I mean,
hey, but it's not the
Jordan
Nationals. He's tying it all up for the Nationals, man. He's just waiting for
he's just
the pro invitationals and everything. He's like, all right, these ACL opens, I can rock in this. I mean, you can't be mad when you're still winning a couple grand in a day.
No, I'd be thrilled with second place. I don't care. We're going to the Open a week and a half now. I'd take second anything.
Yeah,
I would be thrilled.
See, like if you could go 0-2 drop in rounders, that'd be you, but good luck. 26 and a half, baby. Let's go. I just love how
you're guaranteed 6 games in doubles. That's all that matters to me.
I just love how like I watch you play like no, you're guaranteed 8 games, 6 in rounders and 2 in bracket.
Is it 6 rounder? I thought it was 4 rounders, but
it's 6.
If it's 6 rounders,
because it's way too many people to do in 4. Like to actually seed correctly.
The brackets wouldn't be very good. Yeah.
But like it's funny because when I watch you like play normally or in your streams or anything that you randomly do, you like never front board. And then I watch your reviews, you always front board.
Thank you.
Always front board. Like I watched your last review and I'm like, you weren't even throwing fast bags and it was like not even close. I was like, Corbin, why
not even close?
Front boarding.
Not even close. Yeah, it's 989s. I'm like, boom.
Like directly in the front. I'm like, whatever. It's just
comical. Dude, I know. It's wild. I get that all the time though. Like when I'm playing, local guys, whatever, and it's right after I started the channel, got the logo going, all that, we're playing. They're like, oh, I've seen your channel. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. They're like, oh, front board. Like, yeah, play a game. And they're like, you didn't even front board. I'm like, I played 6 games today and I haven't front boarded once.
Yeah, I know. And
I'm like, literally,
I don't think I front boarded at all on Saturday, to be honest. I go off the back once in a while, but like, and it's funny too, because like me and Corbin were making fun of each other about both of our last reviews to release because I had like a 6 PPR and he had like a 6.5 PPR. And we're like, man, we both threw so terrible. And then I'm editing my tournament vlog and I threw like an 8.4 PPR over like
Did you?
12 games of like long games. And I'm
That's
like,
pretty solid. Yeah.
I'm like, that's fine. I had a couple 10 games in there. I'm like, see, like I don't throw 6. Like,
it's the reviews, man. I mean, when you're sitting there talking, your mind isn't on the throwing.
Well, you're playing by yourself. It's so different when
you're throwing by yourself. Dude.
When you have
it's
an opponent
wildly different.
And you're like, I have bags to go off. I'm like focused a little more.
Yeah, when you got bumpers to help you, when you got, if they have one off, you're like, cool, I need one in, whatever. If I'm throwing by myself, I threw one off, I'm like, I missed.
Plus, if you throw by yourself, the dirty play style is kind of brutal.
Hey, you can't do it.
I'm like, man, I got to push every time. This is hard.
Like, man, that makes you a better pusher.
True. That's another thing. I guess it actually ties us back into the podcast a little bit to finish off here is you guys see us review. We're kind of, and me saying I'm kind of a hybrid play style. I enjoy to throw blocks and pushes in. And you guys know I love my cut shots. I have a couple crazy cuts coming in my next vlog and stuff. And Corbin loves his flop, his airmail, his pushes, good blocks. When we're throwing reviews, we can't do that. Like we can, but it makes us not throw very good. We're not going to throw great. I'll do it to show that I can cut it or that I can flop it or try to. But like when you're just throwing 4 by yourself, like people are like, "Oh, you didn't throw so good." I'm like, I'm throwing by myself in a garage, dude. Like there's no mentality to try to throw like crazy good or like to think about it. It's just.
I mean, even if you want to get around bags, you have to either go to the other side and put those bags down. Or throw a purposeful block, which is incredibly difficult.
Yeah. And you only have 4 bags to do it every time. Yeah.
Correct.
How many times have we done reviews and you're like, I'm going to lay a block. And then you make it and you're like, I'm going to try to lay a block again.
Like, well, I threw it a little too hard. It's a pretty good miss, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
welcome to the life of small time reviewer.
Yeah. I know it.
Yeah, I got 10 sets soaking in softener right now. Welcome to the
Do
life.
you really?
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, it's kind of an interesting conversation. It was kind of sparked by our conversation with Jimmy and Tyler talking about the style of play, the dirty versus clean. And back to Killshots bags. The OG 357s, they're a classic. They'll be a classic. And the P90s,
forever.
Really solid, a little bit fuller pro sniper that you can find a lot of people selling. I really liked it as an option. When I gave it to my brother.
Nice bag, man.
I gave it to my brother and I was like, man, these are actually kind of sweet.
I
haven't thrown these enough. These are sweet.
They're really a nice bag. Someone pulls them out at blind draw, like, will you throw these? I'm like, hell yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Hell yeah, I'll throw those.
Sniff the hole they go in. Let's go.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah.
They're great.
So, but appreciate you guys stopping by for another podcast. It's crazy we're already on number 16. I remember when this was just an idea and we're almost at 20, which is just, it's a lot of episodes of a podcast. But, appreciate you guys stopping by. We have a couple people lined up in the next couple weeks. Don't know the exact time frames, but we're definitely talking about getting some more people on the podcast. We really love talking to pros or anybody in the cornhole scene. As it's really cool to get some different mentalities and kind of learn who they are as people because we see them on the streams and not at other places. But you guys know what me and Corbin are. We're just lame, boring YouTubers that are decent at cornhole. But
it's just us.
So that's why it's fun to get other people on here. But appreciate you guys stopping by for another podcast. We'll catch you guys next week. So I hope you guys have a great day and rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.